Hey guys, and welcome to another teardown video. This time we're taking a look at an old and quite rare switch design, Ericsson RMD973. Someone donated a bunch of these. Thanks again, mate. They're called RMD973 because that's what's written on the underside of the switches, but very little is known about them, and they're found in only a few keyboard models. So I figured I'd do a little teardown video on them. These switches are linear and are similar in concept and execution to RAFI RSM switches. Now these ones have a top cover on them, but that's not always the case. I've seen that before in some other switch models too, weird as it sounds. The clips that hold it to the housing are absolutely microscopic, however, so it seems pretty difficult to remove these without damaging the top cover. The idea behind this switch is that one of the contacts is mobile and under tension, which makes it preferentially move downwards if given the opportunity, but it is prevented from doing so by a supporting bar that extends outwards from the slider. When lowered far enough, the flexible contact is allowed to meet a stationary one located in the opposite corner of the switch. The flexible contact in this switch is line-shaped, whereas the RAFI one was square and wrapped around the whole housing. I have no idea how durable this sort of arrangement is, but from a design perspective this is quite elegant, as it eliminates the type of contact rubbing that you get from cam action switches such as Cherry MX and Alps SKCM. This is really quite neat because it allows you to theoretically get a contactless level of smooth feel on your contact-based switches. The switch itself is really very simple in design. The stationary contact is just a bent piece of contact wire supported by a little channel in the housing. The flexible contact is inserted and bent over forwards, creating its own tension, and the slider is held captive by two open tracks in the housing as well, which means that the housing plays a relatively active part in the switch design. I think this required a fairly complicated mold, as large parts of it are quite thin-walled. But hey, as long as it worked, I suppose. One of the weirdest things about this switch is that the stationary contact appears to have a flexible rubber sleeve over it. I tried to pry it off, but it broke, so I can't show it to you in more detail than this. But this seems like an odd design decision because it doesn't look like the switch would properly open when the contact is lowered on top of it. And indeed, I've tested it, and this arrangement only gives partial continuity, which I find extremely baffling. It's perhaps also interesting to note that the flexible contact has a crosspoint block on it, presumably gold-coated, for better and more reliable contact. Cherry is especially well known for using gold crosspoint contacts like this. For the closed top model, the parts count is 7. The top cover, the housing, the slider, the coil spring, 2 contacts and the sleeve, which is 1 more than Cherry MX linear, so kind of medium complicated for a linear switch. That's it for this teardown video, and I'll see you in the next episode.